Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and today's video is our next installment into the community replay series, and this is an epic, incredible game that was played by GonnaMakeUQuit here in the Tashkent, the Tier 8 Soviet destroyer. He's divisioned up with a friend of his who's playing in the North Carolina, the Tier 8 American battleship, and they're playing some domination here on the map Loop. So this replay is, at least in my opinion, probably the best community replay that we have ever received. This is the brand new damage record across all servers here in the Tashkent, and let me tell you, this game is going to be absolutely sweet. And I think his gamer tag is pretty indicative of the outcome of this replay. Gonna make you mad. He certainly is going to be roasting the heck out of the enemy battleships that will be coming later in the replay in between B and C and pushing around that side. And it's going to be some pretty sweet stuff. And that doesn't even tell you, I don't even tell you yet, that there's a pretty epic gearing fight as well. Now, one really quick thing here before the replay starts. I mentioned it in the comments below. The camera, when I was recording this, was kind of dicked up. Pardon for the language, but that's really the best way to put it. So you're going to see some peculiar angles whenever he is aiming at far distances specifically. So pardon me for that. I'm going to be using the free cam quite a bit as I'm doing it right now to just get some cinematic shots, and then also whenever the camera gets all weird. I've never had a replay recording do this to me before, so please bear with me on that. Anyway, at the beginning of the game, he decides to head to Objective Bravo. Unfortunately, this is a Tier 10 matchup. As I mentioned earlier, there is a gearing in here. There's also an enemy Des Moines. There is aircraft carriers in this game as well, and he has to deal with an enemy Essex. And the Tashkent does not have very good concealment whatsoever for a destroyer. It's over 8 kilometers. For him, it is 9.1. I was able to get mine to 8 point something when I used it, but clearly he here is not running one of the concealment options, either the captain skill or the equipment piece. And you can see right here, the view, aiming almost the maximum extent of his range is very, very weird. So I will be not using this camera view for some parts of the replay. So he moves into Objective Bravo, and he's getting some nice shots downrange. And of course, he already starts a fire because it's Soviet destroyer guns, and these things have a very good fire chance. It's like 8 or 9% base. And when you get Demolition Expert going, which I presume he has, he didn't mention it in the email, but I presume so, and he's going to be roasting some of them big battle wagons. And there we go. He's already got 2 fires set on that North Carolina, and he's got a quick 10k damage as he's more than halfway capturing Objective Bravo. Unfortunately, the gearing took some massive hits from those ships that were up there, and their Tier 10 destroyer has already been taken out of the game. So at this point, he is the only destroyer left on his team. Luckily for him, there's not a few more destroyers on the enemy team that I'll have to deal with, but certainly a Tashkent versus a gearing, it's a very, very delicate razor's edge, I should say, that you have to deal with because of your horrible concealment. But these Soviet guns perform very well, and he continues to pepper those battleships down with some good fires. He sets yet another one on the North Carolina, and the gearing that died in front of him was able to get a torpedo hit on him as well, so he's taking fire and flooding damage, so he decides to switch his focus to yet another North Carolina that's moving around the headland to his south. So here at the beginning, 23,000 points of damage now so far, and he has picked up the solo base cap, so a very successful start to the game here, but there's still plenty more that he needs to do. And I am sure that North Carolina, no pun intended, is a little bit mad that he's roasting alive and flooding. And that's what the Tashkent and, quite frankly, Soviet destroyers and light cruisers, specifically the tiers 6 through 9, are really good at, is just staying at range and setting fires. He does get detected as his smoke runs out, launches his torpedoes down towards, well, not exactly sure what he was aiming at there, but you know what? The gearing was spotted over at Charlie moving back towards B some time ago, so maybe those were just meant as a deterrence, just in case the gearing appears. And now he's getting some more shots at the Kutuzov, and once again, you can see here the camera is... I honestly don't know what this is. It's not something Aslan's mod-wise. I tried rectifying the problem, but there's just nothing that I was able to do while recording. He does run with his anti-aircraft guns on, and the Tashkent does have some decent AA. He does, shoot down a plane here as those torpedo planes are moving in towards a battleship that's off to his starboard side. And there's also going to be some dive bombers that will be coming over him as well. So, yeah, he'll end up with a couple plane kills, I believe, by the end of the game. But, yeah, the Tashkent, it's decent AA for a destroyer, but at the end of the day, it still is a destroyer. And, yeah. So at this point, the enemy team has captured Objective Charlie. He has obviously captured B. There's a friendly cruiser moving on to A, 361 to 300. The enemy has lost one of their battleships, that North Carolina, obviously, and the Gearing is the only ship on his team that has taken the Watery Grave. 33,000 damage. And at this point in the game, looking around the map here, you can see the bulk of his team is right in front of him. And they are over in the vicinity of B and C somewhat, about 8-9 kilometers away. So he decides that he's going to make his way over to C. The majority of the battleships on the enemy team as well are moving over there. And at this point, he feels that it would be his best interest to be over there and getting some annoying, pesky shots from smoke. And again, that's what Soviet destroyers excel at, being able to deliver long-range fire, lighting fires, and just getting the chipping damage. Now, not necessarily sitting in smoke. They certainly do not have the smoke that the American destroyers have with their much longer duration and bigger puffs, but Russian and Soviet smoke is still pretty good, and he's going to take plenty advantage of that here when he makes his way over towards Charlie. He's looking for shots here. There's a Bismarck. There's a North Carolina. We're going to take the camera over here just a little bit, and you're going to see just the glutton of battleships that are going to be making his way as he starts to shoot his first shells down there at the Bismarck. And, of course, there's the North Carolina. And then we're going to look a little bit to the right here, and there's also going to be an enemy Iowa. And then, to round it all off, a GonnaMakeUQuit is going to make an appearance, too. So he's going to continue to shoot. And once again, you can look at the camera. Pardon me for mentioning it, but it's kind of cool, in my opinion. It looks really strange because I know that he would probably be fully zoomed in, and then when he zooms in, those ships are 12 kilometers away, and that North Carolina is pretty much out of his screen, or at least half of it anyway. So, pardon me again for mentioning it, but it's kind of cool, but to some it probably would be annoying. So he continues to get more shots. He does have a fire burning on the Bismarck, who does immediately use his repair, which I do not agree with whatsoever, and he pops his next smoke. Sets more fires there, one on the North Carolina, sets another one on the Bismarck. Unfortunately, his repair party was still active, so it's not going to stick. And he's just going to keep peppering them. And that's the thing that you have to take advantage of in your Soviet destroyers and cruisers. If you come across battleships that immediately burn their damage control, you really need to punish them with the high explosive. He switches his fire now to the Iowa. And once again, he's going to try and get him to burn his damage con. There's also an Ibuki moving over here as well. So the majority of the enemy team, especially their top-tier ships, are moving over here too. So he's got to be careful. And, of course, he's going to continue to stay in his smoke. The Soviet smoke lasts for a pretty decent duration. So there's no reason for him to move out. Of course, there's also enemy airplanes that are around. And with the Tashkent, it does have a pretty terrible detectability range when it shoots its main guns. It's very German destroyer-esque, where it pretty much gets spotted the longest range that it can shoot at. So he does set a fire on the Iowa, and now he switches his focus back to the enemy Bismarck, and he's trying to get another fire set. And you can see here the accuracy of the Tashkent at these ranges is still very, very good. The last salvo, 6 shots hit. That one, another 6 shots hit. Very, very good stuff. And these guns have a very good muzzle velocity. I'm pretty sure it's north of 900 meters per second when it comes out of the barrel, as he switches his fire to the GonnaMakeUQuit, who's at 11.1 kilometers away. His team has taken the lead still, or not taken the lead, but they still have the lead, 510 to 398 at this point. They've lost 3 ships. The enemy team has lost 3 ships. And now he sets yet another fire here on the Currywurst, and he's looking to set yet another one on the superstructure. One quick thing to note with 0.5.6 part 2 of the test server that's been out for quite some time this weekend, one of the things, of course. One of the captain skill changes that's really interesting is the fire prevention. It was a very bland captain skill where it decreased your fire chance by about 7%. They buffed that to 10%, and they also made it so that your battleship can only take 3 sections of fire damage instead of 4. So the superstructure, it used to be split into 2, and you can see that Currywurst is burning on both parts of the superstructure as he puts it out. That's going to change, and as long as you have that fire control measure perk on, it's only going to allow you to take 1 superstructure fire. So something interesting to take note of. It has nothing to do with the gameplay, but just something that I think it'd be good if you guys knew. He's up to 83,000 points of damage with 10 fire set and 169. Make that 176 shell hits. And, of course, the solo base cap and one of the torpedo planes shot down. The Currywurst is able to get behind the island, but he will set fire number 11, so he's going to be burning for quite some time. He's at 9 kilometers, and he keeps going in and out of detection range as those battleships move in and around the islands that are off to his starboard side. At this point, the enemy team, they've lost 4 ships. His team is still they're hanging in there. They've lost 4 ships as well. The Iowa, he's now taking some shots at 13.2 kilometers. The Tashkent has very, very good range. And while American destroyers can shoot out to this far as well, I believe the Farragut, with advanced firing training, actually has a longer range than the Tashkent. It certainly is very difficult to hit at that range with the incredibly lazy shell arcs. Now, there's one thing that I will tell you here, going to make you mad, just a little personal preference that I do. Whenever I do stick those fires on the enemy battleships, even German ones, I definitely switch to armor piercing when they're showing the broadside. And I understand that on a lot of those battleships that are in the game currently, in this game I'm talking about, the superstructures have been raked by your high explosive fire, but I still think it would be better off if you were to shoot some AP, especially into ships like the North Carolina and the Iowa that you will see. There's, again, nothing wrong with trying to start the fires, which he sets fire number 12 there, but it's just something to take note of. Whenever they give you solid broadsides of, say, 50 to 60 degrees or up, definitely pull out the armor piercing. Soviet DD-AP is nothing to scoff at, and it can make a mincemeat of enemy battleships. However, he picks up the Witherer, 117,000 points of damage, so he's clearly doing something right here. As he continues to kite around over here at Objective Charlie, his buddy in the North Carolina has retreated with him, and they are heading back towards the border, the corner of the map. And for instance, right here, I would definitely suggest switching to AP, because the armor piercing damage is the kind of damage that'll get you the moderate and severe, where they're not going to be able to repair it. Whereas the high explosive, when it causes fires, the majority of that can be brought back to your ship's hit points. But nonetheless, he's still doing good. Just something to note and maybe take into consideration. 137,000 points of damage. The fires continue to burn on the Currywurst, and the gearing has showed up, and he is shooting. And as I mentioned earlier, it's very difficult for those American DDs to hit you at range. He does get hit, takes a fire, and gets his steering gears knocked out as he pops his last smoke. But you saw how many shells the gearing shot at him, and he just, quite frankly, hasn't really taken much damage whatsoever. He still has 16,000 hit points, which is a very healthy number. The gearing is trying to close in on his position. He does set a fire on the rear of the ship, and the gearing is going to get undetected, as I believe he pops a smoke screen for the Iowa that is over there that is trying to move around. Or no, the Currywurst, excuse me. He switches his fire now to the Iowa. The Iowa has let the fire on the bow burn. He's up to 150,000 points of damage, the majority of that, of course, being the fires. And now he decides to launch his torpedoes into the smoke. With that third salvo of 3 fishes, he decides to aim quite a bit farther to the right. We'll see if that comes back to benefit him later. Now, right here, once again, you can see the Iowa is turning completely broadside. You can easily get 3 4K salvos with AP into the sides of those American battleships with these Soviet destroyers. So again, yes, he's doing fantastic damage with the high explosive, trying to set the fire, but I definitely would suggest using AP in this situation. 161,000 points of damage. There we go. He sets yet another fire, fire number 15 there on the Iowa, and he continues to kite away. Now he switches his fire to the North Carolina, and I really love what he's been doing so far. Takes shots at the Currywurst, continues to pound him into submission until he's on fire. Switches to the Iowa, pounds him into submission until he catches on fire. And now he is shooting at the North Carolina, and he's going to set a fire here shortly. He does manage to get 2 torpedo hits with that last salvo of torpedoes that he aimed farther to the right. So now that Iowa not only is burning, but he is also flooding, and you can see the damage counter at the top right corner of the screen is just going over 1,000 damage a tick. When you get those fires and the floodings going at the same time, it is absolutely ridiculous. There we go. Fire 16 on the North Carolina. The gearing is now trying to close the distance. He picks up the high caliber. The Iowa shoots at him from smoke. He's turning to starboard. He's going to take quite a few hits here from the Iowa. Luckily for him, the majority of them overpenetrate, and then he takes some more shots here from the North Carolina. Luckily, the accuracy was off, and he does not take too much damage. He's still got 10k hit points, and this gearing is making a huge mistake. And GonnaMakeUQuit here knows exactly what he needs to do. He's going to stay at range, and he's going to kite around, and he's going to turn away here to his starboard just in a couple seconds here. And even at these kind of ranges, 6-7 kilometers, it's extremely difficult for those American DDs to hit you when you're maneuvering around all wildly like this. He has taken a couple of shells here from the gearing here and there, but he is certainly laying down the hurt back towards him. 528. This next salvo is going to roll for over 2,000, I believe, as he hits him very hard. There we go, 2,300. The gearing takes a hit from somebody, and he finishes off the job, taking him out. He did lose quite a bit of his hit points as he takes more shells, gearing shells that are flying in, gets his maneuverability knocked out. He's up to 231,000 points of damage, and the Iowa appears in the smoke off to his port side, and now he's launching some torpedoes. He just manages to get out of the way from the Iowa's full broadside. Luckily for him, that shell did not happen to hit underneath his rear turret, or that could have been the end of him. His buddy takes care of the Iowa. B-Ball Mangrave, what a freaking name right there. Gets his Citadel on the enemy Iowa. So the only ship that they have to deal with now here on this Charlie side of the map is the North Carolina. And once again, the North Carolina uses his damage control on one fire. So it is long since gone out, and now he is getting ready to light him on fire again and continue to stack up the damage. 231 to make that 232. Absolutely insane as he sets fire number 17. So what have you seen here throughout this replay? Just absolutely ridiculous amounts of kiting, ridiculous amounts of shots downrange. He's approaching 400 shell hits, which is a fantastic number in any destroyer, let alone a Soviet one, which has a slightly slower rate of fire than its American contemporaries. And he's also making use of the range now at this point because he doesn't have too many hit points, and he wants to, at least he's hoping that North Carolina's attention will stay on his buddy in his North Carolina, who has moved forward quite a bit now and is trying to take his attention away, which he has successfully done so. And with the Tashkent's very good range and shell speed, which I've already covered, of course, he is having not really much of an issue landing shots on target. Wow. What a performance so far. And there's still a little bit more that he needs to do. The enemy team, it is 752 to 657. There's 3 ships left on each side. The friendly carrier got taken out some time ago, and the enemy carrier is still alive. So at this point, they're still not out of the woods yet, as his buddy in the North Carolina continues to close the distance. His secondaries start going off. That means he's probably within 6 kilometers at this point. The fire continues to rage on the stern of the North Carolina that he's shooting at. He's up to 246,000 points of damage. We're going to get another little cinematic shot here, and just listen to the beautiful sound that those Tashkent guns make when you're shooting over and over and over again. Very, very good stuff here. Switches his fire back. Unfortunately, the North Carolina catches him a little off guard. Hopefully his dispersion is not good. Is he going to get hit here? Ooh, very, very close. That shell missed off his starboard side by maybe a couple feet. Very, very lucky indeed. Continues to shoot more shells. His buddy gets a full broadside into the superstructure. Manages to do about 7,000 points of damage. Is he going to be able to secure the kill here? More shells flying in. He's aiming at the superstructure, getting those nice damaging hits. And with 87 hit points left, his buddy totally kill steals. I'm sure he didn't really care. But either way, that's still some sweet stuff. 256,000 points of damage. The old record across all servers was 240,000 before he played this game. So he already has it beat by 16,000 points of damage, and he's now looking to get some cheap damage done on the carrier, wherever he may be. His currywurst buddy is moving up into Objective Bravo, 852 to 714 the scores are. There's an enemy Ibuki somewhere. I believe he's over around Objective Alpha. I don't recall exactly, but he's going to go over and try and help his currywurst buddy out. He is on fire, and his hit points are ticking away slightly, so I do believe that Ibuki is over off to his starboard side. And yes, the S6 gets spotted at 15.5 kilometers away from him, just behind Objective Bravo. So the currywurst is going to, I believe, start getting some of his, at least his forward guns down. But then the Ibuki shells come flying in on the starboard side, so he's going to switch his attention back to the right. And really, at this point, the Ibuki is the only threat. I believe the S6 has just had his planes decimated throughout the course of the game, so I don't know for sure if he has too many left. And the currywurst is going to pin his attention out to the Ibuki. Gets a full broadside, sequential fire out. The shells are going to go down. The Ibuki goes off the map, and we'll see if he manages to take him out. Maybe? Yes, he does indeed. So now, with the carrier left, 917 to 709, he's going to get in there now and get the assisted base cap here at Objective Bravo. And then he's going to try to, of course, farm some easy damage here at the end. His buddy in the North Carolina has already gotten his 2 forward guns out at the S6, and he will manage to get a couple hits, I believe. No, he does not. The shells fall just a little bit off to the right side, I would think. Manages, he got 3 seconds left here on the base cap, and he is going to get it right here. Very good stuff. And then he begins to open up here on the enemy American Tier 9 aircraft carrier. And because we've seen so many fires and so much damage done, he's going to, this is just something that destroyer players love at the end of the game, when you find a full health carrier and you can just farm them out and you've already had a beast game, and it just makes you feel really, really good. So the game is about to end here. Continues to rack up more damage, just padding them stats, picks up the Confederate, very nice stuff here, the third medal of the game that he has managed to secure. He continues to do over 2,000 damage almost every salvo that he lands on the Essex, very, very good stuff. More shells falling in, he's up to 275,000 damage, and as he shoots his last little bit, his last group of shells will hit, and that ends a completely ridiculous game here in the Tashkent. Taking a look now at the post-battle results, 500,000 credits received, 13,600 total XP earned, Confederate Witherer and High Caliber, 276,000 damage done, and once again, it is the new highest damage ever recorded in a Tashkent across any of the servers, Russian, Asian, European, and North American. 470 target hits, 2 torpedo hits, 1 ship destroyed, the gearing, 20 fires set, 1 solo cap, and 1 assisted base capture. Taking a look now at the team score, 3,314 base XP. Very, very great stuff there. And his buddy in the North Carolina finishes in pretty solid 4th place with 1,757 base XP with 2 kills on his own. So, GonnaMakeUQuit, thank you very much, sir, for sending in this replay. This was one epic game, and I really, really enjoyed watching it from start to finish. So, thank you once again. Congratulations, by the way, on setting this awesome record. And with that being said, the Sneaky Snake here for Brothers in Arms World of Warships signing off. Everybody have a great day, and please be sure to like and subscribe.